I have a Patreon, it's on the internet, and if you give me money, I'll you.
Well, look at that. Jim let Rufus come out and play again. Too bad they are lying to you. Again. Hello, people of the internet. This is a Geek Gaming Cultural channel, and Jim Stephanie Sterling brought up the GTA6 leaks, and while I have no beef with calling out those that are complaining about a game that is still in development and won't come out for some time, though I do think some of that is being overblown or being satire, I have a feeling that Jim Sterling was at some point going to circle back when we got the quote that Rockstar gave about not wanting to quote-unquote punch down. But did Rufus frame it like that? Of course not. Instead, the so-called pro wrestler decided to say this.
Oh, and as far as the aforementioned culture wars goes, because that's what it always comes down to in the end, if you thought it escaped my notice that people are being whiny little about GTA6 having women for protagonists, you don't know me very well. Why is there a girl character? This throws the whole dynamic off. I'm not satisfied, cries one such and they're not alone. Just type GTA6 woke into Google and drink in the discourse, gang. GTA6 has actually been pilloried for going all SJW since before even these leaks, with the usual assortment of unwashed gamer boys and alt-right incels holding a grudge against Rockstar after it decided to cut some inconsequential but ultimately transphobic gags from Grand Theft Auto 5. Since then, the status quo warriors and free speech enthusiasts have tarred Rockstar with the increasingly massive woke brush. Yes, woke. Fascism's buzzword du jour that is now used as an insult for anyone displaying basic empathy, like that's a bad thing.
I thought Jim wanted a break from these. More fuel to the fire that I didn't buy that they did to begin with, and that they just didn't want to be wrong about the Nintendo allegations or agreed with those they're not allowed to agree with, that there wasn't a there. Now, before I go any further, Jim constantly lies about this notion that people who complain about things like this are the same people who don't want politics in their games. Let's clear the air about this now. They don't mind that politics are used as a backdrop in the games in of themselves. What they actually want, and this is one of the many straw mans that Jim wants to use, is for the corporate peddling to cease. They want for these messages to not be shoehorned in or be so heavy-handed that it takes someone out of the immersion they want to invest into. They don't want something shoved down their throats or be pounded into them with a sledgehammer. You can do a good thing badly, and they feel that the recent preachiness that companies and some people on social media seem to want is too heavy-handed. Learn to parse this, Jim. Oh wait, I forgot. It's your job to make sure there's only 2 boxes available to put people into. Part of this video game media establishment now. No wonder you needed to find this one person out of so many. Wait a minute. I searched for this tweet or thing on social media that even had this quote. Google? Hey Google. Nope, I didn't find a single person that uttered this quote. Did Jim really make this up? Where did Rufus get this quote from? They are so ready to quote tweak and dox anybody who dares call them out and then pretend they never responded to them. Sorry Jim, you quote tweeting that dominant guy was you responding to him, but in the video, nothing. Either Jim had to go to the edges of the internet to find this quote, it's from a now deleted tweet, or Jim completely made this quote up and it is completely lying to their audience. Who said this? Of course, I don't expect an answer from the same person who is also building straw man about what the complaints actually stemmed from while their editor threw out constant stock images and videos like they usually do. Have you ever noticed that they usually use the same cartoon images every single week? And whining that people use the terms woke as if they don't know what they are actually talking about. Yes, Jim is woke, but not awake. Dang, I love that new Shinedown album. Listen to the track America Burning and you'll get why it's such a wonderful message. Woke, but not awake. Because, as I stated in a previous video I made about this, no one significant ever complained about a female protagonist in the game, or even that they were Latina. In fact, the majority of the internet went out of their way to specify that they were excluding that aspect from the rest of their argument. And I had actually said that Rockstar was actually trying to amplify that aspect in order to hide the fact that there might be microtransactions in their game, which might anger just about everybody. The real concern was that Rockstar didn't want to punch down and to not make satirical jokes, when that has always been one of the main reasons people were drawn to GTA in the first place. It was an equal opportunity offender, using comedy and satire as a tool for social commentary. Like I said in my video, it takes skill to be able to get someone to laugh at themselves. And people like George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, shows like South Park, and games like GTA were and are able to do that. Hell, GTA made fun of conservatives just as much. Did you ever pick up on the Fox News parody they do called Weasel News? Or when they made a parody of the religious right nutjob in Vice City on the VCPR radio station in that game? The actual problem they're addressing is that Rockstar were going to cater to those that feel they are above any form of satire. They couldn't be parodied, when in reality, only those that are keyboard warriors of social media are clamoring to be above criticism. Funny, Jim, that you didn't even show the actual quote in question, but would complain about people using the terms, or that you would overblow and mischaracterize and build straw man to tear down. Oh, and notice I'm not even getting into the straw man you build around what the complaints about The Last of Us Part 2 actually were, or you suddenly being the shield for Naughty Dog. All it takes is for someone to watch Angry Joe's review and the deplatforming that Reset Era did after he posted that review to show how full of it you really are about that. For me, to get into it is a whole new can of worms that will just make this video 40 minutes longer if I opened it, even when I'm more than ready to have that debate. The evidence to the contrary of what you try to sell us about those complaints is well documented if you look at places other than Kotaku, Polygon, and your videos. But I didn't expect you to downright lie about things or just make up a quote, which you seemingly did here. This is downright dishonesty, and it screams in the face of whatever point you were trying to make. Yes, I'm with you about the idea that those that are complaining about that they are seeing leaked footage of a game that clearly is still being worked on is blasphemy. But, assuming you didn't find some dark scowl of the interwebs where that quote resided, you making up quotes just so you can go back to your Buzz arguments that you know they are not indicative of what someone was actually complaining about. In fact, the only people I actually see on Twitter talking about the female protagonists in the game are people that are trying to call out people who were complaining. And you know what I wanted to ask of them? Who are you talking about? Name them, because we're not seeing them. There's no there. What we're seeing is you complaining about them, and Reset Era whining about them as they usually do while ignoring anything but what confirms their bias. But we never actually see the people complaining about the female protagonist or their ethnicity. The only thing I have ever seen people complain about were of that other part of the story. No one I have seen has ever said anything negative about the idea of a female protagonist or their ethnicity. This is a straw man argument if I ever heard of it. This is something people heard others they go to figure out what to think are saying to them. Oh, and for the record, yes, I did put the term GTA6 woke into Google and got a bunch of articles claiming that the game is not going in that direction. And nope, not one of those are being honest about what anyone's actually concerned about. Didn't I say this was what the media was going to try to drive the narrative to? Because of course they did. So I ask again, why are you amplifying whatever dark regions of the internet that are seemingly having a problem with said female character? If we have to really look for these people, then they are not worth single boosting. Perhaps you are scared that the majority of the internet are together on the idea of a female protagonist in GTA and need to find some way to go after those that have a problem with the other thing about not wanting to punch down. Something that Jim was seemingly referring to, but he wasn't actually going to come out and just say that, because they would then have to explain how those that were actually discussing any of this were somehow incorrect. Or name the YouTubers that were talking about it because they are scared of them responding to Jim and make Rufus have to take a break that they say they were going to. And only mention that they were upset that people were complaining about the removal of certain content for the GTA 5 remaster on the PS5 when, again, they mischaracterized a lot about what the controversy behind that and why people were so annoyed. Notice that Jim isn't advocating for the removal of any other stereotype in GTA games. This is them wanting for the group they belong to be the only protected class in GTA that can't be stereotyped in any way or be satirized. I can't wait to see if Jim will try to tear down the South Park comparison that people have made when describing what GTA's humor was all about. Then again, I'm not surprised that Jim is only concerned about the perceived punching down of the group they now belong to, seeing as how they respond to anyone they feel is attacking their identity on Twitter. Of course, those that are should not do so. Notice that in none of my videos that respond to Jim's videos have I ever outright attacked their identity, only roasting them at the amount of names they have gained over the years because of people like Digital Homicide, and only touching on it if I feel it has some relevance to the topic and they are directly bringing it up. Here, I believe it does have some relevance, because they don't ask for the black stereotypes or the Mexican ones or even the white trash ones you see to be taken out. As long as the identity they belong to is protected, then they don't care about the other ones. This is disingenuous, and it shows the way they want to divide us gamers. Oh, and yes, let's not forget for a second who one of Jim's friends is, and one of the reasons why Jim is even saying this. Of course, not a single person in their comment section or on this subreddit ever calls out or mentions that the quote they pulled was pretty much completely made up, or call out the tearing down of their own straw man about GTA 6 or removal of things from GTA 5's millionth remaster. Unfortunately for Jim, I exist, and I'm not some alt-right troll. Funny that Jim complains about buzzwords that goes right for them when explaining anyone detracting from them or calling them out. When someone has to outright lie about a quote that was made, again, I'm only saying they did because I haven't seen anything to show that the quote exists, or has to go out of the way to mischaracterize what the arguments even are. It shows the lack of willingness to engage with those you claim to be the disagreeable. It shows that you don't care for the debate or the conversations to move forward, but rather to just win arguments. Especially when you're only asking for one class of individuals to be the only protected class out of a sea of those that satire and parody is used against or on to make commentary or show something about us. It shows it is about little more than ego, something I knew Jim was full on because they couldn't bring themselves to say they agreed with someone like Clownfish TV on even one thing, because they are in league with the gaming media establishment, which they refuse to call out. Why else do they continue to put Jason Schreier on a pedestal? They are a part of it now, while pretending they are still on our side. They have become the young Turks of gaming commentary now, or maybe even the G4 gaming commentary. And yes, I am considering talking about that too. It also calls into question anything else Jim has said, now or over the years. Why do this? I don't know. I guess I'm not surprised Jim couldn't keep Rufus at bay for too long. Again, the only ones that are even talking about the female protagonist of GTA 6 are those pretending anyone's offended by it. Woke, but not awake. This is the Geek Gaming Culture channel that just happened.